Hi guys, welcome to another live session of Seagull Staffing Solutions. I'm Sylvester Sardina, DGM Operations and Acquisition. Firstly, I'd like to thank all my viewers, in fact, who's taken this time and opportunity, in fact, of investing today's session with Seagull Staffing Solutions. Uh, this session is pertaining with all job updates and opportunities across Man India. Firstly, I'd like to thank my viewers who's joined us for the very first time. I would request you to be stationed and tuned with us for the exact next 30 to 40 minutes. As we start our slides, I would request you to pay attention, in fact, to all the slides that we'll be showcasing this afternoon. Of course, if you have any questions, we'll have a session where we will be interacting during the closure of the session. As we begin the slide, in fact, as you can see on my right side of my panel, we have Seagull, which is a 40 years old excellent service provider and ICV certified firm, the biggest workforce provider. To understand more about Seagull, you can visit us on www.seagullhr.com. As we start our first slide, in fact, where Seagull, in fact, International LLP is an ISO certified global human resource consulting firm headquartered in Mumbai. We have our offices across India. In fact, starting from Mumbai, we have our office in Delhi, Chennai, Kolkata, Kochi, Vizag, Sri Lanka. We also have a presence in into 18 countries of the world, which emphasizes the location, which is Sri Lanka, which is Dubai, Lithuania, Kuwait, UK, Russia. And Seagull is approved, in fact, by the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India. As I spoke in my earlier slide, which we have emphasized with our domestic locations and our international locations. So to my viewers who are tuned to us for the very first time, I would request you to pay attention, as we have a QR code. Of my viewers who are already stationed and tuned with us for the couple of weeks, I would request you to promote this QR code to your contacts and connections. People who have tuned with us for the very first time, I would want you to pay attention to the QR code, which emphasizes with Seagull Jobs View, which is an automated AI platform where you will scan the QR code. You'll be taken, in fact, to a formatted page where you invest with a few details that you're in. You will upload your resume. You'll sit back, in fact, and the AI will match with the requirement that right now is affiliated and is matching to your resume. So I would request you to take the opportunity, in fact, to scan the QR code, upload your resume, sit back, in fact, let the AI do the scanning module for you. So as you see, we also have another QR code. The earlier QR code was to affiliate it with submitting your resume. This QR code is, in fact, getting yourself connected with our social media pages, which is Facebook. Right now, we have approximately close to 35 to 40,000 of connections, where we be posting daily, weekly, fortnightly, and job updates, in fact, job artworks. So I would request my viewers who have already connected with us, tuned with us on the social media pages, to promote this QR code with your contacts and connections. My viewers who's connected with us for the very first time, in fact, to take this onus and opportunity, in fact, to connect with us, stay tuned with us for weekly, monthly, and for daily job updates. As we start with the first slide, as you can see, we have a role right now, in fact, with Adani Solar, which is in Mundra, which is in Gujarat. This point of time, they are looking out at 4 categories for a role, which is a technician training. That's correctly read out. In fact, technician trainees, where we are looking out at 4 categories. We are looking out at 10 plus diploma, or 10 plus ITI. For this way, 10 plus ITI, which is not mentioned on this artwork, as we have recently received a revision, additional revision from the client, where we are looking out for a 10 plus ITI. We are looking out to 12 plus. We are looking out for ITI or graduates, and we are looking out, in fact, for diploma holders in a specific stream in the BSc category specifically. The salaries which are mentioned over there is a CTC, where the client is welcoming candidates across Pan India. To apply, you've been given the QR code. I will just brief you with a little module of the role. In case you attend your attendance, in fact, for 26 working days, in fact, as an attendance module, in fact, you'll be additionally rewarded, in fact, with the 2,500 with the attendance reward. Additionally, you have a OT mechanism, voluntary, if you would want to tender, in fact, with an additional 4 hours, which is the minimum OT mandatory hours that you will need to tender. You'll be paid as per the Government of India OT guidelines will be paid out over there. The company will be taking care of your food as well. In fact, additionally, as a subsidy, you'll be paid 585 rupees besides your salary. The local transportation would be taken care by the company itself. You only will be incurring a 750 rupees, in fact, for the shared accommodation provided, in fact, by the firm. So in case you are looking out, in fact, to apply for this role, you've been given the email ID, you've been given the QR code. So I will request my audience, my viewers, to take the onus to scan the QR code. In case you have any of your contacts where you feel that they would be suitable to this role, I would request my viewers to take a snapshot of this artwork to promote this QR code to your viewers and your network. As we first slide, in fact, I would request my viewers and my viewers who are already tuned with us, in fact, to pay attention as we start from this slide, which is on my dashboard. At this point of time, we have three modules to submit your resume. One is the QR code, one is the contact number, and one is the email ID. Emphasizing on the contact number, all my artwork, upcoming artwork from this slide will have a different contact number. All are affiliated although to WhatsApp. So I would request you to wisely pay attention on the WhatsApp number. All the upcoming artworks will have a different email ID of the recruiter to wisely pay attention to the email ID. The QR code remains standard, in fact. So we have three modules as I read out loudly. One is the QR code, one is the contact number affiliated to WhatsApp, and one is the email ID. Of course, this is talking on the role right now that we speak about. We are looking to hire for one of our conglomerate client, in fact, for a senior manager taxation, which this will be based out at Ahmedabad, in fact, in Gujarat. The client is okay, in fact, to entertain, in fact, candidates across pan India, despite of the gender that we look around, in fact. However, the client is looking out for somebody with stability. The client is looking out for a CA qualified candidate over here. So of course, if you're a CA candidate, qualified candidate working with a multi-diversified or a conglomerate company, you would be the right fitment over here. Taxation is the module right now the client is looking forward. If you fit the criteria, you've been given the QR code, the contact number, and the email ID here to tender your resume. As you see on the screen right now, in fact, we are looking out for an R2R module. In fact, we are looking out for candidates, in fact, with the same client. Hence, I'm not going to read it out the basic modules that I spoke about. The client with that role and this role would not be taking care, in fact, with your food and accommodation if you're an outstation candidate. Of course, they will design that CTC wisely in your annual CTC, the component they will design that. And in this role as well, we are looking out for a qualified CA. So I would request my viewers who are applying to any role to wisely pay attention on the industry, qualification, and experience. This artwork has a different email ID, different contact number. And of course, if you fit that criteria, I would request you to take the honors to tender your resume here as well. As you see right now, we have another artwork. We are looking to hire, in fact, for a manager, senior manager, financial planning and analysis. In fact, the same client, Ahmedabad and Gujarat over here. Here as well, we are looking out for the CA qualified candidate. In fact, the sector can be multi-diversified, can be a conglomerate sector. We are looking out for somebody who has a good hold with stakeholders, who has a good hold with board of directors, who has a good hold, in fact, with financial planning analysis, and who has a continuity, in fact, with the stability in his or her role. If you have that credibility, I would request you to take the honors to tender your resume on the QR code, WhatsApp number, or the email ID mentioned. As you see, we have the fourth artwork right now with the same client, in fact, manager, senior manager, revenue assurance. Here as well, the client is looking out for CA, MBA finance, and MCOM. However, I would request my viewers, in fact, my candidates who are interested for this role, in fact, the first preference would be given to CA candidates, the second preference would be given to MBA candidates, and the third preference would be given to MCOM candidates. In case you're an MBA finance or an MCOM and you don't hear back, in fact, that would be because they are given the first preference to CA qualified candidates, in fact, with the credibility who's already working in the revenue insurance segment. The client is okay to entertain candidates across pan India. The client would not be taking care of food and accommodation. That component will be wisely designed in your annual CTC. You have the email ID, the WhatsApp number, and the QR code here as well to tender your resume. As you see on my dashboard right now, we look to hire for a head of marketing. This happens to be in Mumbai. This happens to be in Nerul. This is for one of the leading educational institute. In fact, right now we look for somebody who has a good command, a good hold. In fact, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to channelizing that strategy in that particular function in marketing, the minimum years of experience I look for this role is 12 years. I would request my viewers to wisely pay attention. In fact, with the experience, when I talk with 12 years, I'm looking out for the relevant years and not the total years of experience. Of course, you have the sector which is education, which is counseling, which is in fact admissions right now. You've been given the QR code, you've been given the email ID and the contact number here as well to tender your resume. As you see on the dashboard right now, we look to hire for a manager, a senior manager. This is again for a leading aviation industry. Of course, this comes under the same conglomerate client that we spoke in the earlier slide. This is one of their entity, their upcoming entity in the aviation industry. We are looking out for a minimum 5 to 10 years of experience. In fact, specifically somebody in that sector of aviation, somebody in the sector, in fact, similar to aviation. If you have the credibility, you can take the onus to tender your resume on the QR code, on the contact number, and the email ID. As you see on my dashboard right now, we have a slide that we've been promoting the last 2 to 3 to 4 weeks earlier. We are looking for an additional, in fact, front desk. Hence, we are using the same artwork. We are looking out, in fact, for a client right now that is based out in Kalina in Santa Cruz. We are looking out for smart female candidates who would be interacting with stakeholders or business partners, in fact, over the telecom call, in fact, with setting up the meetings, in fact, with the required HODs. You will be interacting with those members in person as well. Hence, we are looking out for people personality, in fact, pleasing personality. We are looking out for somebody who has a good hold with communication, a minimum experience of 3 to 5 years. If you have the credibility, you've been given the QR code, you've been given the WhatsApp number and the email ID here as well to tender your resume. As you see on my dashboard right now, we look to hire for an assistant manager sales aggregator. This is for one of the leading retail food chain outlet in Mumbai. In fact, their corporate office happens to be in Bombay. We look for somebody who has a good command, who has a good holding with the aggregator business, where you'll be upselling with brands like Zomato or Swiggy. If you are already aligned in the same line of business with the minimum credibility of a relevance of 4 to 5 years of experience with industry of food, or somebody from the QSR side, you've been given the email ID, the contact number, and the QR code here as well to tender your resume. As you see on our dashboard right now, we look to hire for a business development executive. This happens to be for one of the leading print media agency company. Of course, we look for somebody, in fact, from an advertising agency or a print media agency right now as a particular role, as we spoke about with business development executive. I'm looking for candidates only from print media or from advertising agency. If you come from some other background, the client might not look forward to shortlisting your resume. We look for somebody with a minimum of 2 to 5 years of experience. The QR code, email ID, and WhatsApp number is mentioned to tender your resume. I look forward, in fact, for applying for the accounts executives, client servicing. I look for somebody, in fact, with the same print media background. I look for somebody, in fact, with the minimum of 3 to 5 years of experience, in fact, as a relevancy. I look for somebody, in fact, with the agency background. I look for somebody, in fact, with the same vicinity in the chamber location as client is looking for somebody with somebody with the same geography location who has been mapping clients with the background of agency or print media. If you have that owners, you've been given the QR code, contact number, and the email ID here as well to tender your resume. As I see to look to hire for a social media executive candidate, I'm looking for somebody with a minimum of 1 to 2 years of relevant experience in the agency background. I look for somebody who has a good hold and command with social media. In fact, as a credibility, if you've been given that kind of experience, in fact, you've been given the email ID, contact number, and the QR code here as well to tender your resume. As you see on my dashboard right now, I'm looking to hire for a GAM profile with a group account manager role. I look for somebody again from the print or advertising agency with a minimum relevant experience of 6 to 8 years. In fact, The qualification which we look can happen to be a graduate candidate as well. However, you need to be from print media, or you need to be from the advertising or the creative background. You've been given the email ID, contact number, and you've been given the QR code here as well to send your resume. As you see on my dashboard right now, we look to hire for Power Builder developer. To my viewers who tuned and stationed with us for the last couple of weeks, in fact, we are looking for an additional Power Builder developer. Hence, we are sharing, in fact, this artwork for a Power Builder developer. I'm looking for candidates across Pan India, across, in fact, the globe. The client will be interacting with the candidate, in fact, over a video call, where your first round of interview will be a telephonic interview, will be a video interview, in fact. While you will need to be showcasing a project based on Power Builder, in fact, the application. The client will be taking care of your food, your accommodation, your flight charges, and your transportation. This will be a contractual role of minimum 2 years. You will be based on renewal as well. We look for somebody with a minimum of 7+ of relevant experience. In fact, if you have the credibility, you can give the QR code, WhatsApp number, and email ID here as well to tender your resume. As you see on my dashboard right now, I look to hire, in fact, for one of the leading steel construction companies for the Techla editor and a junior Techla editor. In fact, the location happens to be Mumbai, Mahape to be precise. The client is looking out for candidates across Pan India. In fact, however, the client will not be covering up with your food and accommodation or outstation candidates. Local candidates, you might not be eligible, in fact, with that company either ways. In fact, if you come with that kind of credibility, the sector the client is okay right now is oil and gas or is petrochemicals, is an additional sector that I'm reading out. If you have the credibility, you've been given the QR code, the WhatsApp number, and the email ID here as well to tender your resume. As you see on my dashboard, we look to hire for a senior tech lab modeler. Earlier was netter. This happens to be a modeler. We look for somebody with a minimum 6 to 10 years of relevant experience. The sector happens to be oil and gas over here. The same specification as I read out earlier, that their client is okay, in fact, to looking for candidates across Pan India. In fact, the client would not be covering up with your food and accommodation. However, if you are comfortable applying for the role, you have the QR code, WhatsApp number, and the email ID here as well. I have the same client here with an additional role of a Tekla checker. Hence, I'm not going to read out the basic specification. I'll jump directly to the specification of the experience. I look for somebody with a minimum of 10+ experience over here with oil and gas and petrochemicals. Across Pan India, the client might look to introduce candidates. You have the contact number, you have the email ID, and the QR code here as well. I look to hire, in fact, for the senior manager operations. In fact, this happens to be in Turbe, Navi Mumbai to be precise. I look for somebody with 10 to 15 to 20 years of relevant experience who gets operational strategy, in fact, to the board, in fact, who will get operational activities, who's managing the entire operational belt, in fact, with conversion or with strategy planning. If you come with that credibility, we look to hire somebody who's worked, in fact, with the conglomerate or with the multi-diversified industry. If you have that expertise, you can give the QR code, the WhatsApp number, and the email ID here as well to tender your resume. I look to hire for a construction manager, in fact, for a leading conglomerate company. The location happens to be with Dahej, it happens to be Gujarat. The client will be taking care of your food and your accommodation across Pan India candidates if you're planning to apply. You've been given the QR code, WhatsApp number, and email ID. I would want to emphasize that we are looking out for candidates from marine, oil and gas, offshore, and construction sectors only. If you come from any other background, your CV might not get shortlisted. Hence, I would request my viewers to pay attention on the experience, gender, sectors, and qualification. And you've already been given the QR code, email ID, and WhatsApp number here to tender your resume. As we move to the next slide as well, we look to hire, in fact, for the site HR. We are looking out for some candidate who is based out in Dahej, who is based out in Gujarat. The client will be taking care of your food and accommodation over here. In fact, I would look for candidates across Pan India. I would look for candidates, in fact, right now, who are already been working as a site HR. So I would request corporate HR candidates, in fact, to not apply your CV. It might not get shortlisted. If you're a site HR at this point of time, I would look, in fact, with the credibility of minimum of 2 to 5 years with construction infrastructure background. Food and accommodation is something they will be taking care. You have the QR code, WhatsApp number, and the email ID here as well to tender your resume. As we move to our next slide, we look to hire for a bidding engineer. In fact, I look for a candidate, in fact, across Pan India. For this profile, the client would not be covering up with your food and accommodation. This is the corporate office role, hence the client would not be covering up with your food and accommodation. You've been given the experience, the sector, and the qualification. If you match the criteria, I would request you tender your resume on the email ID, WhatsApp number, and the QR code that's mentioned. As you see on my dashboard, I look to hire for an import and export documentation manager. I look for somebody, in fact, for at an executive level as well as a manager level with a minimum of 3 to 5 years and here to 8 to 10 years. I look for somebody who has a license, in fact, within the documentation segment. I look for somebody, in fact, who's already working as an export and import executive, export and import manager. The client's looking out for candidates precisely only from the Maharashtra region for this position. So if you come from other regions, your profile might not be looked out with that kind of shortlisting mechanism. Hence, I would request my viewers to wisely pay attention on the shortlisting criteria. If you come from Maharashtra region or the Mumbai region, you've been given the QR code, WhatsApp number, and email ID here to tender your resume. As I spoke with the earlier role and the manager, here we look for an executive with the same credibility. Hence, I'm not going to read it out the specification. You've been given the QR code, email ID, and the WhatsApp number here as well to tender your resume. As you see on my dashboard, we look to hire for a regulatory and compliance manager with a minimum of 5 to 10 to 15 years of experience in the plastic polymer segment. I look for somebody in Daman, so somebody from Gujarat or Maharashtra region is okay to apply. The client would not be covering up with your food and accommodation. That component will be wisely decided in your annual CTC. You have the QR code, WhatsApp number, and the email ID here as well to tender your resume. I'm looking to hire, in fact, for a sales executive for one of the leading perfume retail company, in fact, where they're looking out for freshers equally, in fact, of somebody who holds a dynamic personality, who holds a good hold on communication. If you're trying to build up your career in sales, this is the opportunity. I would request you to tender your resume on the QR code, WhatsApp number, or the email ID mentioned on the artwork. As you see on my dashboard, I look to hire for a senior manager, human resource. In fact, the location happens to be for Andheri West. This is for one of the leading lithium companies that we talk about, an exclusive project right now that we are holding, in fact, in the Indian region altogether, where the client is looking out for somebody who's working into the different segments of HR. If you would want to build up your career with a leading lithium company, you can tender your resume on the QR code, WhatsApp number, or email ID mentioned on the artwork. This is our head office in Mumbai. If any candidates would want to visit us, in fact, can visit us on this address mentioned on the artwork. You can contact us on the board line number as well. If anybody has missed out to make a note of any of the email ID, you can tender your resume on the email ID mentioned on the artwork as well. We have a branch offices. You can visit us at our branch offices. All our branch offices venue details are differently mentioned. I request you to make a note. The contact numbers are differently mentioned and the email IDs are differently mentioned as well. We have offices at Baroda, we have it at Vizag, we have it at Kolkata, we have it at Cochin, we have it at Chennai as well. If any of my viewers who's missed out, in fact, to scan the QR code, can take the onus to scan the QR code over here as well to tender your resume on WhatsApp, to tender your resume over the email ID as well. As we move to our next slide. Okay, do you have any land started opening? Yes, Mohammed, we do have roles right now. I would want to understand with the location that you come from and what is the industry background. I would request you to tender your resume on the email ID that's mentioned, and probably we'll have somebody reach out to you for a discussion.